Warning. This video is not intended for an audience under the age of 13. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay guys, sorry, but I'm feeling a little drained right now. 2 weeks ago I was doing like a collab with drlockdown, and then the week after that I was working with my dad on making a video for the brew supply store that he works for. So this week I found myself a bit drained to make the regular toy reviews, so I figured I might as well do something new and interesting, because that always helps get my creative juices flowing. Which is all to say, salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and let us commence our analysis of how I make an episode of It Figures. Of course, I doubt that this video will get much clout, and really it will be ignored by the algorithm because it's different from my usual stick of reviewing a figure, but that's not the point of this episode. The point of this episode is to help other small YouTubers and fans start out making their own video reviews if they've been wanting to do so but have been scared to do so. You don't really need any equipment, and you don't really need to follow the same method that I do when I make my videos. This is just a general guide to anyone who's interested. So, let's cut over to me from a few hours ago with a disheveled look on their face so we can begin the process of how I make a video. Okay, this is a small last-minute change in the script. I was initially going to say that the first step of making a review is, of course, getting the figure, which is an important first step. However, I was dragging it out way too long and talking about the various sources from which I get figures and the various pros and cons to using each source, and it was just too long and too boring. So, the long and short of it is, I don't prefer any particular source to get my figures from, because each has its own pros and cons. So let's get on to the actual first step of reviewing a figure, the study phase. Now, the study period is the biggest wild card out of the process of reviewing a figure, mostly because I will genuinely have no idea how long it will take for me to complete this. This involves me both studying the figure in person, crud, I think I went cross-eyed again, and also by watching the video reviews of other YouTubers. Mostly because I find I have trouble articulating my complaints about figures, A, and B, I generally get too caught up in praising the figure to actually make any gosh darn criticisms. So watching other people talk about it who might have a more balanced mindset than I do is really helpful, and it has saved me from gushing over a figure that maybe didn't deserve it. Wait a minute, this isn't about Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Dead End. Once I complete the study period, it's on to actually writing a list of complaints and praises about the figure. Okay, the vehicle mode on this figure is good, and the robot mode definitely looks unique. Having said that, of course, the transformation is way too complicated, and it can barely stand up on its own. Which will then serve as an outline for the review. And I have to make the decision of whether or not it's the complaints or the praises that ultimately overtake my opinion of the figure. Is it wrong that I'm being very critical of the complexity of this transformation? Like, a figure can be as complicated as it wants to be, or as gimmicky as it wants to be, or as good as it wants to be, and I can still find reasons to hate it because it just doesn't appeal to me. For as cool as this vehicle mode and robot mode look, it doesn't really excuse the fact that it's unfortunately got feet that are way too small for its own good. Not to mention that the transformation is too complicated for its own time. And overall, I just don't like it. Now then, once the script is finished, I move on to filming. And before I film the bits that take place with me in front of the camera, I have to shave my face, mostly because, well, while I can wash my shirt, I unfortunately can't ungrow my facial hair for at least 5 days. Not to mention that facial hair just doesn't look good on me. I'm gonna leave the beards and such to autocorrect primer in view. Anyways, once my face is shaven, my shirt is changed, and my goggles acquired, I begin filming in front of the camera. And this can take up to 6 hours, depending on how many times I cut away from the camera to me. Most episodes it's just for the beginning and end, but there are also times where you cut back to me in the middle of me being in the light box. But in all honesty, this part of recording footage is the one that takes the most of my energy. Having said that, recording this footage usually takes the most energy out of me because I'm looking in the viewfinder, trying to see where I am in frame, and also because I'm talking to the camera and I have to maintain eye contact with it. Of course, another thing I have to consider when I'm recording a video is my lighting. I have 3 sources of light, and one of which runs perpendicular to the angle at which I shoot my footage. If I shoot the footage with a natural light coming from the window on, then it leaves the right half of my face, though to you it's the left half of my face, very, very visible, but the other half is very shadowy, which makes keeping eye contact with the camera very difficult. Which is already a difficult task considering that I don't really have the ability to keep eye contact easily. And while yes, 6 hours might seem like a long time to you, which it really is in all honesty, it is important, mostly because I have a tendency to flub up my lines ever so often, and I have to start over again from the beginning of the line, especially if I want to do a continuous take. With voiceover, it's easier because I can just do multiple takes and listen to them, so I can make sure that it flows together well, but you can't really do that on camera now, can ya? Or you can, it's just not very easy. But once I finish recording in front of the camera, I move on to the penultimate step, recording voiceover, and also recording footage in the lightbox. Now then, it is here where I must note that I actually had to reshoot this scene, hence why you will note that I have a different shirt on. And the reason I had to reshoot this scene was because the initial shot had my butt in the center of the camera for an extended period of time. Which, while that might have been humorously awkward, I don't think that's really considered YouTube appropriate, so we're changing it to a more dignified angle. Now then, the reason why the voiceover and the lightbox shots are basically symbiotic is because what I say has to match up with the shots being shown in the video. That's just basic logic. However, for certain figures this can be very, very frustrating, mostly because certain types of figures, specifically those that have trouble standing up on any hard surface, for some reason have an incredibly easy time standing up on a soft surface, which makes it incredibly difficult to show off flaws such as Siege Springer's loose ankles, or his tabs and his, calves coming undone. It just makes it really difficult. Not to mention, my lightbox is pretty darn dinky for lightboxes. Theo uses one that's like a meter or like a yard cubed. All I'm saying is, if you're getting equipment for your own reviews and you want to go with the lightbox option, then I suggest getting something bigger than 20 centimeters cubed. Now then, when it comes to recording the voiceover, my tip to all of you is to first sit up straight, and you will need 2 supplies in order to record voiceover. The first is your mic, and the second is something big and soft such as a blanket or a towel. That's right, almost all of the voiceover work done for the past 9 episodes of It Figures has been me sitting under a blanket with a microphone. Having said that, the equipment I've used for the past few episodes hasn't been very high budget, we'll say, but I still think that it has turned out some pretty good results. I'm currently using a Fine microphone in order to record all of the voiceover work. And last episode, I did also briefly dabble in using the free audio recording and editing app Audacity to help fix my audio, though I think it actually made it worse instead of making it better. Audacity is a valid tool when it comes to working on voiceover, but for me it just doesn't really work and my audio sounds better without it. But once I finish recording voiceover, it's time for the editing, which is honestly my least favorite part of the process. Mostly because I always feel as though my soul itself is clinically dead by the end of the experience. For as much as I like the design of this figure, as well as its vehicle mode, and also the weird light pipe dies, I can't say that I recommend him to anyone. I do acknowledge that for the time, he was a pretty cool figure, and if I had gotten him back then, maybe I'd appreciate him more. But coming back to this figure here, today, after going through Siege and the Studio series, and Earthrise, I can safely say that this figure has not aged well at all. In fact, I'd be more than happy if Hasbro or Takara made a Studio series version of this figure. Mostly because, well, Sideways was in the movie, and this is a pretty easy retool of Sideways. Having said that, I doubt they're gonna do it. Okay, now it's time for a confession. I kinda made this video because, I don't want to make a full review of Dead End. It's just, that's how much I dislike it. I can't really think of anything funny to say about it, or comedically express what I hate about him. It's just, I don't like him and that's the end of it, so figured might as well use him as a backdrop for describing the process of how I create videos. So, that being said, I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I'd love to thank all of the 216 people who have subscribed to this channel, and, well, as cheesy as this sounds, I'm nothing without any of you. And so, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. So, and please remember to keep on liking, sharing, subscribing, and so on. I know that kind of contradicts what I just said, but I appreciate everything that you guys do for me. And, hey, if you all want to, like, support me even more, you can go to my Teespring store and purchase some of the merchandise. I owe a thank you to everyone who's purchased so far. My grandparents, Dr. Lockdown, of course myself, because I purchased some for my brother's birthday and a shirt for myself, and also my mom. So thank you all. And if you want to get a $10 discount on your next purchase, use the code ONLOCKDOWN through August 11th, 2020 in order to get a $10 discount. So with that being said, this is Firebite27 over and out. And I hope that I've inspired at least one of you to start making videos on this lovable dumpster fire of a website. And don't forget...